Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. My name is Farida Khelfa, and I'm very honored to be your moderator today. I would like to welcome you to the Terra Auditorium of the Sustainability District of Expo. This session is organized by Cartier in collaboration with Leaders for Peace. And so now we are going to be talking about peace, and we are going to focus on the role of women in peace and stability, and how education, especially girls' education, can make nations and community peaceful and stable. First, I would like to invite to the podium a very special guest, His Excellency Jean-Pierre Raffarin, former Prime Minister of France and President of Leaders for Peace. Monsieur Raffarin.
Thank you, Farida. Your English is beautiful. Mine is not so good. So if you don't mind, I will speak French. Mesdames, Messieurs, chers amis, c'est un grand bonheur pour le président de Leaders pour la paix d'être aujourd'hui parmi vous, ici à Dubaï, pour cette exposition universelle qui lève les cœurs, qui enthousiasme les esprits sur les grandes causes, et notamment celle des femmes. Je voudrais remercier les organisateurs, les autorités émiratiennes qui ont aujourd'hui porté cette coopération, notamment avec Cartier, pour ce pavillon Women, ici, qui est l'une des grandes aventures de cette expo universelle. Je voudrais donc dire clairement au CEO, à Sophie Doireau, comme je le dis à Cyril Vigneron, toute notre gratitude pour cette initiative, le courage qui a été celui de Cartier, et vous dire que nous sommes fiers de vous, fiers de voir aujourd'hui une cause aussi importante que celle des femmes portée dans un événement aussi important. Leader pour la paix est enthousiaste en se mobilisant avec vous parce qu'on voit bien que parmi tous les leaderships, le leadership féminin est le moins belliqueux de tous les leaderships. Et donc la paix a besoin de l'émergence des femmes. Et je dis ça en présence de plusieurs membres de Leaders pour la paix, dont Madame Irina Bokova, ancienne directrice générale de l'UNESCO, leader international qui aujourd'hui porte ce message de paix et notamment par le rôle que peuvent prendre les femmes dans nos sociétés pour l'esprit de paix. Je salue Donia Kaouach, la directrice générale de Leaders pour la paix, que vous allez entendre toutes les deux. Je salue toutes les autorités qui sont présentes et notamment Madame la sénatrice de Paris, membre de la Commission des Affaires étrangères de notre Sénat, Catherine Dumas, qui est avec nous. Quand les femmes grandissent, les sociétés progressent. C'est cette conviction qui vous a rassemblés et qui a fait qu'on pouvait aujourd'hui porter une parole forte ici, dans cette exposition universelle. Ce qui est important, je crois, aujourd'hui, c'est que notre monde devient de plus en plus dangereux, que les menaces s'amoncellent partout. Et donc, il faut chercher à promouvoir aujourd'hui cet esprit de paix qui va de pair avec la capacité que les femmes puissent assumer de hautes responsabilités dans nos sociétés. C'est un combat stratégique, non seulement évidemment pour les femmes, non seulement pour la cohésion sociale, mais fondamentalement pour la paix. Et puisqu'on a choisi un débat très rapide, je ne vais pas être long, je fais simplement une proposition concrète. La proposition, c'est de vous dire que la parité, c'est un très beau combat et il faut continuer sur cette parité. Mais je vous propose qu'on en ajoute un autre à la parité, c'est l'alternance. Le leadership féminin est différent du leadership masculin. Ils sont complémentaires, ils sont différents, mais dans une structure, notamment une structure internationale, c'est bien qu'après un leader masculin, on puisse trouver un leader féminin et que les managements, que les équipes puissent s'ouvrir les unes pour les autres. Et donc, dans les grandes organisations internationales, comme l'ONU, ma chère Irina, je crois qu'on devrait décider assez vite, bien avant l'élection, de dire que le prochain secrétaire général de l'ONU sera une femme. De dire aux femmes, préparez-vous à assumer ces responsabilités, que des candidates soient prêtes le moment venu pour assumer ces responsabilités. Il y a des organisations internationales qui sont aujourd'hui animées par des femmes. Irina a animé l'UNESCO. Il y a aujourd'hui une membre d'ailleurs de Leader pour la paix, Ngozi, qui est à la tête de l'OMC. Mais je crois qu'il serait utile que nous puissions dire vraiment à tous ceux qui nous écoutent et au monde entier, au fond, pour l'ONU, dans cette organisation qui est difficile à mener, qui quelquefois donne le sentiment d'être assez impuissante et de manquer de souffle, et bien de dire que dans 3 ans, dans 4 ans, le prochain secrétaire général de l'ONU sera une femme. L'alternance dans les grandes fonctions diplomatiques notamment est sans doute une occasion de compléter le principe de parité en faisant en sorte qu'on puisse ouvrir les organisations à plusieurs regards sur leur vie interne et sur leur stratégie. Voilà ma proposition pour aujourd'hui. Et puis, en conclusion, je voudrais vraiment vous convaincre d'une chose, c'est que la paix, ça ne tombe pas du ciel. La paix, c'est un travail. La paix, c'est un effort. La paix, c'est quelque chose qui mobilise les énergies. Le cœur et la raison sont à mobiliser pour la paix. La paix est un travail, et le premier de ces travaux, c'est l'éducation pour la paix. Je vous remercie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Merci. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this great introduction. So I would like to invite our 3 speakers to join us. Madame Irina Bokova, who is the former Director General of UNESCO. Donia Kaouach, who is the founder and president of Tunisian FIER, an advocacy think tank that promotes women in Tunisia, and the executive director of Leader for Peace. Please join me giving them a warm welcome. Please come. Irina, voilà. And we also have Zarifah Rafari, whom you can see on the screen, and she's joining us live remotely. Until August of this year, Zarifa was the mayor of Maidan Shar in Afghanistan. She was the youngest person ever to become mayor in the country, but she had to leave Afghanistan after the Taliban took over. Welcome to the 3 of you. It's really an honor to be here with you all, with you, my dear friends. You are such inspiring women leaders and role models. You have been working in different countries to empower community around the world. What is the role of women in fostering peace through just and stable society? Madame Bokova, you were the Director General of UNESCO for 8 years, and you have worked all over the world to improve access to education and foster peace. How have you seen women play the key role in maintaining stability and peace?
Thank you very much, Zarifa, for this kind presentation. And I would like to thank first and foremost the President of Leaders for Peace, the former Prime Minister of France, Jean-Pierre Raffarin, who set very high the bar for today's discussion. And somebody may think that I have incited him to make this proposal. I think you yourself has made it, and I very much appreciate what you said. Of course, this debate resonates very deeply with my experience, both as at UNESCO and also as member of Leaders for Peace, because I strongly believe that women play a hugely important role in peace, in stability, in all the efforts, in inclusiveness, in development of societies, in justice, in human rights promotion and respect. But let me say something. Crisis and conflict are never gender neutral. We have seen this with the COVID-19. We have seen this in many conflict situations. And on one side, one has to look at these implications of this crisis and conflicts on women. And on the other side, one has to also think of how we involve women in the response to this crisis and conflict. And here, I would like to say that at the United Nations, there was a momentum being built, particularly when there were a lot of civil strife and conflict in some countries. I'm speaking about Liberia, Sierra Leone, Bosnia and Herzegovina, the wars in former Yugoslavia in the 90s, and then all this, at the end of the day, brought about a landmark resolution of the Security Council, Resolution 1325, whose 20th anniversary last year we celebrated, and we continue also to look at this resolution as a guidance. It is for the first time that the Security Council, the most important organ of the United Nations, recognized that gender equality, that women and peace and security are very closely linked. And since then, we have more than 10 resolutions adopted on this. And here are two aspects. On one side, it is violence against women, the pain and suffering of women during such conflicts. I think also that this brought about the recognition that violence against women, that rape used as an arm of war has been recognized as a war crime, which is a huge, in my view, advancement into this. And the International Criminal Court has taken already several of these cases in Sierra Leone, particularly. And we have already Nobel Peace Prize winners, like the president of Liberia, Ellen Sirleaf Johnston, and an advocate from the civil society, because civil society also plays a role in order to respond to your question, Limang Bowie, who was leading Christian and Muslim women together in order to stop the violence by the warlords, and they were very successful into this. And the other side, of course, is that women should not be looked only as victims and not to victimize and to say, you know, women are victims, nothing can be done. But women should be at the table when negotiations are being held, when peace agreements are, and also afterwards to be, you know, with the peacekeepers and with the others that are political leaders that are solving this issue. So this is an extremely important question, and I don't think that peace can be found without women.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So now I'm going to ask Zarifa, because Zarifa, this year your country, Afghanistan, has been at the heart of the news. You were the youngest of the mayor of your country. Now, what should be done to make sure that Afghan women have a voice in the future of the country?
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for having me here. Actually, just a short remark and short note. For us, Afghan woman, the laws, rules, procedures, documentations, or whatever is happening around the world, or whatever is issued by UN or any other agency around the world, we really right now don't trust it, don't believe it, because it is right now none of our, like, it's not our it's not playing the role of meditation for our pen, or not. It's something that we don't see it for us in our lives, while we have the connections, not only diplomatic but socially, with all organizations attached to UN. But nowadays, we Afghan women, we feel so kind of disapart of this world, and particular the UN and something by the name of UN or whatever the agency is. I know this. The rules or laws or documents or whatever have been made or have been worked on it as to stop gender equality, gender extremism, or gender inequality or whatever. But we have been seeing how these all decision makers who sit at the table and making decision for the welfare of their own country women, selling our rights as women for our win to our enemies, to our killers, to our mothers, and they still not hearing us, they still not listening us, and it's still not at all giving us a platform where we can raise our voices, specifically the UN. Afghan women, we really kind of expected UN and all agencies to raise their voice in solidarity of Afghan women, to sanction some of tourist sponsor countries, to sanction Taliban's leadership, to put them pressures, and more importantly, to hear our voices. The silence of UN and in particular those agencies who have been working so closely on the cases of women rights in Afghanistan. It's really kind of, I'm so sorry to say it, but we are feeling ashamed of it, and we are really sorry for it, because we see how brutally the rights of women being abused in Afghanistan. But still, we have just statements. The statements won't help me out. I need action. If the world feels, if the world thinks, we are also part of it. We need actions. The same way that the countries, leaders, or the decision makers who have been working for their own countries. Like example, I can say, like, I just was reading a statement by Secretary Blinken on the gender equality, and he was putting so beautiful remarks, and it was so welcomed by women in U.S. While this man, Secretary Blinken, and all his administration is responsible for my country's situation now, for women of my country who are burning inside the fire that they burned to them. So this is something at all happening. And what we really need is concrete actions, concrete steps. Women of Afghanistan, we have been never part of the conflicts. We have been always part of the developments of the country, the beautiful achievements, and the great resolutions in every sector. But now the biggest pain, the biggest survival comes out of women society or women of Afghanistan. So it needs concrete actions, steps. Let's put sanction on tourist sponsor countries. Let's put sanction on Taliban's leadership. Let's uh, let's raise voices and the UN. Why UN women is still silent? Like they are writing statements, they are publishing statements, but what really in action they did in Afghanistan? While we have been working 20 years so closely, but it was just about the projects and running the projects, which really didn't help the country the way that it was needed. So I think now it's the time to not only rise voice, stand in solidarity with Afghan women, but it's the time to put pressure on leaders, on decision makers, on policy writers, on strategy makers to concretely stop sponsors of the tourism, to stop the ties of Al Qaeda and Taliban, to stop the ties of Taliban and ISI Pakistan. So this way, at least we can pressurize Pakistani this project by the name of Taliban in Afghanistan, and we at least women of this country can have a little bit brighter life. Actually, and secondly, it's all about the UN. I really, just last recommendation. I really like we really expect, and we really from the beginning we was thinking that we will have as like serious concrete steps by UN, which really we didn't see it yet, but we really wish that the UN woman, uh, and all agencies which are working closely in this topic of women could work on it and could really step concretely, because tourists are not anyone's friends. Secondly, the fire which have been already burned in Afghanistan could fire your society, your generation, your country, your woman, if you keep silence.
Okay, thank you so much, Zarifa. So Donia, can you share with us some of the lessons that you have learned from your experience in Tunisia after this strong statement about Zarifa?
Thank you, Farida. Hi, everyone. Marhaba, ahla wa sahla. We are very glad to be here today, and thank you to Cartier for making this possible. First of all, I would like to give you a historical statement that we should not forget and that should lead us to act very quickly. Today, there are more deaths due to social devaluation of female than deaths due to civil war in the 20th century. More lives are lost through violence against women and causes linked to the gender of a person than lives lost through wars or civil strife. This is quite alarming. Yeah. And this fact is stated in a book called Sex and World Peace and published in Columbia Press University. We all know today that the security of the state impacts the security of the women. But most importantly, and as shown on many United Nations reports and UNESCO reports, the security of women impacts the security of the state. And that's why it's not an option anymore. Yeah. We should be a part of the discussion. And indeed, the countries that invest in women's rights are more likely to be stable and democratic. So my question for you today is, what makes a state stable? Power or gender equality? Actually, both. And for all this reason, I think we have to reconsider what we have been taught by Huntington should be completely reconsidered, because the real clash of civilization is not based only on ethno-political differences, but also based on gender unequal beliefs. But I would add another point to this problem of gender equality. And for me, it's the focus, and the main problem is the access to leadership for women. Because my question is like, and it surpassed gender inequality, women today make up less than 10% of the national leaders. So why we do stay blocked one step before the very top? I identified three main issues, what I call three viruses, that we have to fight against. The first one is the patriarchal spirit that is dominating all the spheres of our society, private, professional, and also social. The second one is the idea generated by women as often used by men. And Ngozi Wala, in her books, Women and Leadership, she is actually the executive director of the WTO and the board member of Leaders for Peace, describe that very clearly based on testimony of women such as Hillary Clinton, Christine Lagarde, and others. And the third virus, and maybe the most impactful one, is a significant absence of law, and I completely join Zarifa on what she said. And maybe this is the first recommendation of the report on feminist diplomacy published this month by the High Council on Gender Equality, is recommend to work on law. And the story of my native country, Tunisia, is a perfect example of that and shows how law could help to empower women. Our story starts with a man who fought for women, President Habib Bourguiba, and he said, "I will impose women's freedom and rights by the force of the law, and I will not wait for the democracy of people duped by male culture in the name of the innocent religion." And he did. And he launched a legal revolution, the Code of Personal Status in 1966.
Imposed education for girls.
Absolutely.
It was mandatory,
right to vote.
It was very ahead of...
Absolutely. And it was completely revolutionary at that time. And why
It was
this
in the
is,
60s, right?
Yeah, 1956.
Oh, wow.
And why is this so powerful? Because it's very complicated to contest the law. And 60 years after the first action of the President Bourguiba, Tunisian women stepped up to the plate, and I'm not exaggerating if I'm telling you today that they contributed to make Tunisia the first democracy in the Arab world, pushing out the extremist party and electing the President Beji Qaid Sebsi. So
we can
that's
see it
why
today. Yeah, today you have that. Yeah.
Exactly. So
and also helped, if you allow me to intervene,
Yeah,
it's very
sure.
important what you said, Donia. They also, women fought to inscribe in the new constitution of Tunisia also the rights of women. And when it have it in the constitution, then indeed it's very difficult to abolish it and not to abide by it. Apologies for interrupting, but this is very important. And it's women
fast.
that have done it.
Yeah, so what do you think the key element for peace is education?
Education and law.
And law.
And law, as
so
Tunisia
what is peace education and why does it matter for you?
Okay. What do we all of us have in common today? Why we look so peaceful, non-violent, committed? The answer is very simple, because we are hopeful, we have a relatively positive outlook of the future. And why? Because we have the ability to act. Because we all have a common passport, and Malcolm X called this passport education.
Of course.
And even if the right of education is a part of the Human Rights Declaration, it's still a big deal for many people. I was educated in a French school in Tunisia, and few meters down the school, there was a public school where all layers of society were mixed. And no matter which of the two schools you belong, at the end of the day, the private or the public one, we all had equal chances and equal access to education. And this is also the second pillar of President Bourguiba action, is free access to education. Education was not reserved to elite, and in each small village of Tunisia, you can go to school, and all my commitment to education start from this.
So what is exactly your role in Leaders pour la Paix, and what is Leaders pour la Paix?
Leaders pour la Paix is a foundation that brings together 42 international personalities, so we have one representative per country, and I think the first challenge is to bring together those people.
In which country you have Leaders pour la Paix?
We have representative, so we have an American, an Iranian, an Israeli, Tunisian, and so all the 42 countries. So this is the first challenge, is to bring together those people, so we have a very political path, but we also have another project, and this is linked to our topic on education, is we will try through our mobile schools of peace to give to many young people this passport for life, which is education, by bridging the gap, fixing unequal access to education. And as you may know, in crisis-affected countries, school-aged children are more than twice as their peers in other countries to drop out from school. So we said, if these children cannot go to school, we will bring education to them through these mobile schools of peace. And what we will bring is a package with academic tools, with we try to give them an understanding of the main challenges they likely could face, and the teachers of our school are our leaders. So experienced women and men that will go to Africa, to Asia, and to all these parts of the world where it's not clear.
So Zarifa, what do you think about that project? Do you think that is possible in Afghanistan, or what do you think, how can we impact on education in Afghanistan? How is it possible there?
Thank you so much. Actually, about the education right now in Afghanistan, specifically for women, to be more focused on women, it's just right now we can use local and countryside sources, this normal public sources, to use it for at least reaching the primary education of women, and at least giving them kind of trainings or education on some of the professional issues. Like in Afghanistan, women are normally busy with this handicrafts and sewing clothes with so many good instruments. Women are able to, at their houses, they're having uh, chickens and the eggs, like, more than 80% of women population in Afghanistan are still uneducated. So giving them a platform of primary education within this kind of facilities and trainings, and then after the training, the facilities, to at least have a small amount of money inside their houses, which can give them a kind of uh, financial an independency, and it gives them like, being so independent on their financial sources. And when a woman is financially independent and a little bit educated, it gives it a platform for the better life for her.
Yeah.
So that's why right now I'm working with my team back home, with my all sources and networks,
Okay.
to mobilize and establish a project back home, which is all about giving the education and professional trainings to this rural areas to women, and that will be something, a project run by women to women. So this way we won't have a problem with the Taliban and the social levels as well. We will be able to help women back home.
Okay, thank you. Irina, you've been to Afghanistan and you start education things with the UNESCO. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yes, I'm listening to Zarifa, and I would like to say that I sympathize, like all of us here, with what she said, and to say that it's really disturbing, heartbreaking, what happens to women in Afghanistan and to girls. And this brings me back indeed to, I've been there twice to Afghanistan, and I've been visited some of the biggest project at my time at UNESCO for literacy was with Afghan women, and I have met women from villages and trying to understand how literacy impacts them. It was a very moving experience that I had. One was saying I understood.
When was it?
It was in 2013 the first time, and then 2016. And I remember I asked, what literacy brought to you? And one woman told me, I now understand more about nature. The other was saying, I can sell my goods in the market at a better price. Nobody can cheat me. And the third say, now I can read the prescription on the drug for my children. So it's simple things, but it's so much linked to the well-being of a family,
But
of
it
a
was
community.
in a small village?
It's a small village next to Kabul, yes. And then I visited, of course, girls' school. I still remember the Aisha Al-Durrani. I'm sure that Zarifa knows it, secondary school in Kabul. And when the Taliban took over, I was thinking, what happens to these girls? Because I read that secondary education will not be accessible for girls anymore. So my mind was indeed, my thoughts were with these girls. And when I visited the school, I vividly remember there were a lot of posters on the walls written by girls, just papers on the wall. And I took a photo. I remember one which was saying, my pen is my sword. And I think it's the beautiful way of expressing what education really brings to a community, and linking it also to peace and to stability of a country.
So my pen is my sword. What do you say, Donia?
Yeah, I think this is very powerful. And when I see what Zarifa is doing, what Malala is doing in quite impossible conditions, it's a duty for us to act.
Absolutely.
And I would like also to say how inspired we were by Emirati women, because yesterday we saw so many strengths. And the CEO of Cartier, Cyril Vigneron, said something that I won't forget. He said, I approach feminism as humanism, as universalism. And I think this is quite powerful.
Do you have something to say, Irina, more? Because now we're reaching the end of the conversation. So do you have something really strong to say about women and education and how can we...
Well, you know, this is really, really a crucial topic, women and education and women and peace and conflict. There's so much linked together. I just remember when Malala Yousafzai received the Nobel Peace Prize, for what she did for education of girls. I think it really changed the thinking around education. That education, of course, is a human right, it's empowering, it's the foundation of human development. It's linked to choices, what a human being can make choices in life, so particularly for girls. It's empowering indeed. And at the same time, it was such a strong message that education really is about peace. It's about peaceful societies. And here, I would like just to say another, I would say, aspect of it, that still millions of girls are excluded from education for different reasons, because of poverty, because of belonging to a minority group, because of stereotyping, because of lack of safe schools. And I remember when I went to Pakistan once and we had a big conference on education, girls' educations in education in Pakistan, and a woman approached me there, a professor, it was at a university in Islamabad, and she said, don't believe that Pakistani families do not want to send their girls to school. They want, but they want to send them into safe schools. Yeah. And this is also one aspect of it. Sometimes early marriages impede girls to go to school. And I was really so happy to see just recently an extraordinary example of leadership. It was in Malawi when a woman, and this is once again the role of women when we speak about peace and girls' education, a woman was elected to be a local chieftain, and the first thing she did was to cancel 3,000 marriages, girls' marriages, and send back these girls to school. And I think this is the leadership that we need if we want to speak indeed about changing societies, transforming and life in societies. So it's a big agenda. It's unfinished agenda, I would say, much aggravated, worsened by the COVID pandemic. But precisely because of that, we have to have a fresh look and to invest in girls' education. This is the best investment we can make for the future, for peace, for sustainable development of all societies and communities.
Yes. Zarifa, do you want to add something on what Irina said?
Hello? Sorry, I just lost the connection for a second.
Sorry? Non, j'ai pas compris.
I think.
Okay. Okay. I was asking if you want to add something on what Irina just said about education and women and how can we do something about it ourselves and not waiting for a man, or maybe we can do it with men. It could work too, because
Actually,
that is important too, even in Afghanistan.
Yeah, actually, for me, you know, working for women rights a little bit is, you know, with a different platform, I believe it more. Women can, like, you know, women are doing everything for women and they can do it, and because of they are women. So when we can, you know, pull out men from their comfort zone and ask them or force them to work for women, that's a so I believe that we need to work with them and we have to pull them out of their comfort zones for the women, especially, and to do for education. It's all about commitment internationally and global wise, the leaders of the world, the decision makers, the people who are living the country, men and women, all together. If they could come together and they could really have a clear commitment and they could know the value of the small sentence that Elena have been hearing back in Afghanistan for a woman, that now I can read the prescription of medicine for my
Oh,
children. If they
yes.
did, if know this. So I think this is something so huge, and we can really contribute on it to the projects of too many projects around the world globally running on specifically for women. So we need to just pull out all this together and bring it in a specific platform for women education, because an educated mother, an educated sister, an educated daughter can really, really run a good and transformed and educated generation, at least for 7 more generations.
Merci.
So
Thank you
if
so much,
really want to,
Zarifa. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to keep the pen is my sword for the last word of this conversation. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining us and doing this conversation. Merci.